which one to use to kill you with.
Before Robert Downey Jr. kicked off the MCU, one man put Marvel on his back and said, "I got this." Armed with lethal kicks, unshakable coolness, and memeable moments, Wesley Snipes was one of the great action stars of the 90s. However, his rise to the very top was stopped by on-set fights with directors and prison. But where does he rank amongst the best action stars of all time? Snipes was born in Orlando, Florida in 1962, but was brought up in the Bronx, New York. And as a kid, he was instantly drawn to martial arts, studying Shotokan karate, hapkido, kung fu, and capoeira. However, it was his passion for acting that took him to the High School of Performing Arts in New York. And for our older viewers, that is the same place where this show was based. For our younger viewers, that reference was completely irrelevant and ignore it. But from here, it was pretty much plain sailing for Snipes, as he made his debut alongside Goldie Hawn in 1986's movie Wildcats, an American football movie.
Yeah, let's go eat some.
This movie would actually begin a couple of trends for Snipes, as he would go on to appear in other movies about sports and in other movies with this guy, who's by the way also part of the MCU, technically in a weird way. But next up for him would be a role in the Michael Jackson epic music video Bad, directed by the legendary Martin Scorsese, where he would play the lead antagonist.
You ain't bad. You ain't bad.
You ain't bad. You ain't nothing. You ain't nothing.
Definitely not his biggest role, but definitely one of his most memorable. 2 years later came another small role in another sports movie, this time Major League, where he stole many scenes. Snipes was starting to become a recognizable face in the industry. So much so that fellow New Yorkian Spike Lee, coming off the major success of Do the Right Thing, cast him in his next movie, Mo Better Blues, alongside the incredible Denzel Washington. And, yup, you guessed it, he stole the movie.
That's bullshit.
Why?
It's all bullshit. Everything you just said is bullshit.
Now, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a pattern emerging here. Then these next two movies, King of New York and New Jack Swing, are both legendary 90s movies, featuring moments like this, and like this.
See ya, and I wouldn't want to be here.
Jungle Fever in the same year, also directed by Spike Lee, was another leading role, but honestly, even with his incredible semi-lead role in White Men Can't Jump, which, interesting fact, is Stanley Kubrick's favourite movie ever, for Snipes, it was mainly just drama or dark comedy movies until 1992 and this movie.
Hey, you need help? No, there's only one left. He's all mine.
Which was the start of the birth of an action star. Because yes, Snipes was a fantastic actor, showing range in all his movies and very likely on the path towards being an Oscar winner. But with his background in martial arts, it felt like it was a waste that he couldn't just step up and become an action star like his contemporaries of that age. And with Passenger 57, it was time.
Gotta go.
It was a massive hit, $15 million budget, $66 million box office. He was now a bankable star. Well, kinda, because Boiling Point, his next action movie in 1992, wasn't a hit. In fact, it was a huge flop, and maybe had Hollywood thinking that Passenger 57 was just a one-hit wonder. But something was just around the corner to remove those fears.
With your hands behind your back.
What's this? 6 of you. Such nice, tidy uniforms.
Oh, I'm so scared.
Now, here's the thing about this role. This character was never written to be as flamboyant as Snipes made him. But much like before, he was out there just scene stealing. And stealing he did.
Simon says, everybody, stand!
The movie that is a critique on capitalism and the idea of a utopian society was a massive hit. And whenever the name of the movie is mentioned, Snipes instantly comes to mind with the quirky lines, a sadistic mentality, and that blonde hair. In fact, this narrator even forgot Sandra Bullock was actually in this movie until I started researching the movie and has realized, yes, she's in this movie too.
How much do you weigh?
Well, I happen to weigh 6.
It was almost a proto-hit for what was about to come shortly. After this movie, he kind of went on to do various art house and moderate hit movies, always showing his versatility as an actor. And you should remember that line because that will come back later. It's fair to say that the 90s were a monumental success for Wesley Snipes. He was respected as both a bona fide movie star and also as a serious actor. In fact, there's really no other actor in the 90s that was comparable to Snipes. He could effortlessly transcend into so many genres with such ease. And as the year 2000 was approaching and CGI was improving, there were studios that were floating with the idea of making a superhero movie. No, not like this.
As the Marvel Comics hero, Captain America.
Sort of like this. But a real superhero movie. Marvel were in disarray, they were struggling financially, and the best way they could make money was by floating their characters to different studios to make movies. X-Men was rumored to be in the pipeline, as was Spider-Man, and in fact, Snipes was in talks to become Black Panther in a Black Panther movie, but this did fall apart. And at the same time, New Line Cinema optioned Blade as part of their push into darker comic book adaptations. And it wasn't long before Snipes and on board as a producer, actor, meaning that he had a great level of creative control, and the results were spectacular. Now, many will argue that Blade actually started the MCU, not Iron Man, not Spider-Man. And really, it's hard to disagree. It was the first time that a Marvel character has succeeded on screen. Of course, DC characters had Batman.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Well, mainly just Batman. Although Superman was pretty good in the 70s. But this was the first time that Marvel actually shone. On a budget of just $45 million, it grossed $131 million worldwide. But more than that, the dark, violent style of movie, mixed with the off-kilt, incredible performance of Snipes, made for an instant classic. Snipes brought his real martial arts skills, adding a level of authenticity most comic book movies just didn't have at the time. And to this day, it remains as one of the best Marvel movies ever made. It also gave studios the confidence to go out and make X-Men and then Spider-Man, both of which were huge successes. And this man was to thank for that.
Are you out of your damn mind?
But after this, it wasn't exactly plain sailing for Snipes, as between Blade and its sequel 4 years later, he didn't really have a hit. Blade 2, which was bigger and grossed more, was a standout movie during this period. Many will say that it's better than the original, and many will disagree. Either way, it showed that the franchise was strong, and it was also the peak of Wesley Snipes' movie career. Because it was around about here that things started to go wrong in his personal life. Well, more specifically, his financial life.
Actor Wesley Snipes was in court Monday, where prosecutors painted him as a Hollywood superstar who believed he didn't have to pay any federal income taxes. Snipes, who's probably best known for playing a half-man, half-vampire in the Blade trilogy, faces tax fraud and conspiracy charges with infractions dating back to the 90s.
Because for all the money that he was making during this very successful period of his life, it seemed like he was a little bit naughty with paying his taxes. In the late 90s, Snipes became associated with a tax protester group called the American Rights Litigators, run by Eddie Ray Khan. Following their advice, allegedly, Snipes stopped filing returns in 1999 until 2004. despite earning tens of millions from acting. And if there's two guarantees in life, that would be death and taxes. So the IRS began to investigate him from around about the year 2000. This led to an awful amount of stress on Snipes' shoulders. His back was already carrying Marvel, now his shoulders were carrying a potential guilty verdict, and what would be, if found guilty, prison time. Now, of course, there are two guarantees in life, like we said, death and taxes. But there's also a third, sequels. If a movie and its sequel does well, you can expect more sequels. Yes, I am looking at you, Fast and Furious.
Get us out of here! Why are you always yelling?
And Blade, as we already established, made a bunch of cash. So there had to be a part 3. And at the time, a part 3 would have been beneficial for Snipes as his legal costs were mounting ahead of his make or break court case. And as Blade 3 went into production, with Snipes already under pressure, he probably didn't expect to have the other kind of pressure come his way. That's right. Mr. Hollywood turned up and, well, I'm assuming something like this happened. Wesley, you know you're the most interesting thing about the Blade movies, right? Yup. How do you feel if we cast this guy, this girl, and make them the leads? Well, gotta be honest, not too good. Great. So we'll cast them then. Who knows, the characters might even go on to their own separate movies. You know, their own little franchises. What's that thing the dead guy says? That dead guy? Who? The fat guy. Oh, that's it. More money, more problems, baby. Blade 3 was a shit show.
Oh, I wish I was in Blade. The first two movies are fantastic. I am in Blade Trinity, which is, with all the craziness that went down, we were in Vancouver and Wesley Snipes was going crazy and he wouldn't come out of his trailer, and you'd walk by his trailer and this wall of pot stench would just be like, whoa, and kind of push you to the side. And
Blade Trinity, it was so funny. I'd never seen somebody do this. He had a tattoo double, a profile double, a body double, and he would really, he would do his close-ups, but he's so fun to act with. But on the reverse, yeah, he wouldn't be there. And
there's a lot of lore around, of course, the third part of Blade, which you directed.
Yes.
The Blade Trinity.
Yes.
There is a lot. You guys can look it up on the internet. There's a lot. Suffice it to say,
worst experience of my professional career.
Snipes was already under stress, and now he had to deal with the studio trying to take away his franchise from him. He was not exactly Mr. Happy on set. And maybe any of us would act the same way that Snipes did on set if we had the same behind the scenes issues that were happening in the movie and of course in his life. However, there's a hell of a lot of body doubles in this movie, I have to say. And a lot of people have said that basically he was hardly in the movie unless his face was on screen. He kind of just checked out of this movie, that's for sure. And the quality of this movie confirms this is true from a subjective point of view. However, from an objective point of view, despite all the criticism the movie gets, it still made a huge profit and didn't actually do that bad in comparison to the other two movies financially. And again, I think that most of us in that position may have reacted in a similar way that Snipes did. His friend and movie star from this series of videos, Michael J. White, sums it up.
Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel, I believe in it. They were doing things where it was like, there'll be Blade poster, Jessica Biel, Blade.
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds, Blade. Man, how this man is responsible for the success of that movie.
100%.
They're trying to take the movie away from him and say, this is Blade now.
So with Blade 3 being a critical flop and rumors of Snipes' on-set behavior during the movie making the rounds in Hollywood, as well as rumors of his legal troubles coming to the surface, Snipes was almost untouchable for a while. And suddenly, like the mark of all action stars who are out of favor, he was appearing in a variety of straight-to-DVD movies. Then, on December the 9th, 2010, Wesley Snipes went to prison.
Wesley Snipes gets 3 years behind bars. He was sentenced Thursday on misdemeanor tax charges. Fellow actors Woody Harrelson and Denzel Washington also wrote letters on his behalf. The judge, though, said Snipes showed a history of contempt for tax laws and granted prosecutors the maximum 3-year sentence they had requested.
He served his time at the Federal Correctional Institution, McKean in Pennsylvania, a medium security prison with an adjacent minimum security camp. Unlike those legal cases where the famous actor gets off, he actually did go to prison and was basically there for 3 years, which meant that really between Blade 2 in 2002 and 2013 when he got out of prison, Wesley Snipes was basically not a Hollywood actor. And yes, we should probably discount Blade 3 because that just made things worse. After he was released, there was anticipation for his role in Expendables 3. Stallone brought him in alongside Mel Gibson, another disgraced actor.
It's a embarrassment to me. You look like a on heat, and if you get raped by a pack
Antonio Banderas, and others. They even made a joke about his prison time in the movie's dialogue.
So why'd you get locked away? Tax evasion.
And then he reunited with Spike Lee for She-Ruck in 2015, a movie that many consider to be Spike Lee's worst movie. And then in 2019, he actually made a bit of a comeback with a hilarious performance in Dolomite Is My Name, the acclaimed Eddie Murphy biopic comedy.
Cut! 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 Is there any angle that you could shoot this where it looks like he's actually kicking him?
There's no such angle.
Snipes played director D'Urville Martin and got rave reviews for his comedic performance. And again, he got plaudits for his performance in the poorly received Coming to America 2 or Coming to America or whatever it's called.
Do you speak English?
No, I don't, sorry.
But in reality, he had peaked at Blade 2. His best years were behind him. And now for the ratings. For skills, well, Snipes was trained in martial arts as a kid, and he got a chance to use it. You know what? Scratch that. Because there was one last surprise redemption arc. While Snipes was still on his downward trajectory, we started from Blade 3 and the studio trying to replace him with Ryan Reynolds. Reynolds was also on a downward trajectory with both X-Men Wolverine, of which they killed the unkillable Deadpool and muted the most talkative Marvel character, and then also with Green Lantern, which was a collective L for everyone concerned.
Goddamn, that's beautiful.
You're welcome, Canada.
But he then found his pathway back to the top with Deadpool a few years later. And now he was one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. So powerful, in fact, they had the power to bring Blade to the MCU. And not that Blade they keep threatening to make, the real Blade, the man himself, Wesley Snipes. In a satisfying cameo performance, which shows he still got the magic. It was a beautiful full circle moment that, whilst yes, was definitely fan service,
Some still trying to ice skate up here.
was also poetic. And if they finally do getting around to making that new Blade movie, it definitely needs to feature Wesley Snipes in some shape, way, or form. Because the man is the real reason why Marvel still exists, and Blade is the true beginning of the MCU. Okay, let's do the ratings for real now. Okay, for skills, this will actually be where he kind of gets surpassed to a degree. For a man who dominates the screen when he's on it, he's actually only 5'9". And I'm only finding this out now as I write this script. I always thought he was around about 6'1", 6'2". The skills he learned as a kid have come in handy, especially on Blade and Demolition Man. But let's not pretend he's anywhere on the level of some of the people we've featured in the series so far. So I'm going to give him a 7. When it comes to movies, he for sure has had the best movies of anyone in the series so far. Just the names of Mo Better Blue, King of New York, Blade, Demolition Man, White Men Can't Jump, even smaller movies like New Jack City, Rising Sun, Passenger 57, The Fan, US Marshal, I could go on. They're all notable hits. He might actually have the best filmography, or at least be top tier of all the stars we'll feature in this series, so I'm going to give him a 10. For screen presence, like I said earlier, the man is just 5'9", and I always thought he was round about 6'1" or 6'2", like I said before. And really, that's all anyone needs to know here. He gets a 9. For versatility, he might be the best actor we feature in this series in totality. Here's the proof. In 1992, he starred in White Men Can't Jump, a movie where he plays one of the best street basketball players in the whole of America. Despite being just 5'9", and also going into that film, he actually didn't know how to play basketball very well. And then in 1995, he appears in Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, as a drag queen. And then in 1998, he appears in Blade. I don't think any actor in this series will have such range. He gets a 10. And for legacy, well, this is tricky because his filmography is incredible, but at the same time, the last 23 years have been mainly full of duds. But like I said with Van Damme and Tony Jaa, the legacy outstrips the current day, or at least the last 20 years, so he gets a 9 here. And that actually gives him a score of 45, meaning he's now the new leader of the chart, which honestly, I thought he'd maybe score the lowest in the series so far. But as I wrote this and I got to the scores, well, I just couldn't mark him any lower in any of the sections. If anything, maybe skills could be lower, but 6 seems harsh for a man who's actually trained as a martial artist. So that's Wesley Snipes. Such a shame that he couldn't have kept on growing, because he really, honestly, could have become an Oscar-winning actor and made way more big-budget blockbusters. You guys actually, via my community post, voted for Jackie Chan to be the next person that I feature. So a Jackie Chan video is finally coming next week. I've been promising to make a video about him for over a year, so I think it's about time. Right, so the names on the screen now are the channel's incredible Patreon and YouTube members. If you'd like your name featured on here as well, please hit the link in the description and become a Patreon member or a YouTube member. You get these videos early and unedited by YouTube's copyright. And also, most importantly, your support really helps the channel. And you know what helps the channel? Hitting the like button, so please do. Also subscribe if you please could do. And if you love football, or if you call it soccer, I actually do have a YouTube channel where I've made one video recently, and you might want to join there and watch the video and become a subscriber on that channel too. I'd really appreciate that. Anyway, until next time, big love.
Helmet, that's it.
Yeah, we don't be knowing that lid ain't coming off without that dome gonna come off with it.
I'm so sorry, beautiful. I want this to be gentle. Who is your dialect coach? The Minions? I feel like we are missing critical exposition here.
You speak English?
No, I don't. Sorry.
What the fuck?